Hi everyone, thanks for watching. So I'm here with Aidey Pugh, who's the filmmaker behind this dark film, The Goodbye Girl.
Somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat.
Hi there.
Congratulations, welcome to Fusion.
Thank you. No, nice to be here. Thanks for having us.
No, you're more than welcome. So, quite twisted, this story.
Yeah.
So it must be a bit of a dark mind this came from. So how did you... What's it about and where did... Sorry, we should point out the young actress in this.
Yeah.
If you could just tell us a little bit about her and what the story's about, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, the synopsis is basically about a rather troubled, mysterious and somewhat neglected 6-year-old girl who, for reasons that aren't quite explained, starts to correctly predict and foresee the rather tragic deaths of various family members and indeed random strangers that she starts encountering throughout the film. And then a family member overhears her predict his own death, and it's how, as the climax starts to unfold, it's about how he deals with overhearing that prediction of his own death and what steps he takes to try and avoid his own death and how he deals with it. But yeah, it's a bit dark, it's a lot dark in a lot of places, and rather grim. But yeah, it was absolutely
because it all hinges on this girl. You've got
pretty
even
much.
more so because she's a very young actress.
Yeah. I'm a huge believer in 90% of directing is casting, and it was absolutely crucial to find a girl, and she doesn't say an awful lot. She's only a handful of lines, but she's in an awful lot of scenes, and she needed to have that presence, and I needed her to be both mysterious and not menacing as such, but she's causing the death of certainly some of the people who die deserve to be killed, but others are totally innocent, likeable people who die not at her hands directly, but whether she's wishing them dead or simply predicting them dead. So I needed some sort of menacing, not evil girl, but she needed to have a presence. And it's hard to explain what I'm looking for to 8-year-old girls when I'm casting, because although she's 6 in the film, she's 8 in real life. And a lot of the girls I auditioned were sort of try to look evil or and pull scowly faces.
And which is not what you're after.
Which is not what I want.
You want it to be just natural.
Yeah. And there was a stillness about Millie, the girl who plays Lydia, the title role in the film. There was a stillness and a menacing, quite a bit like the Mona Lisa, where you just don't know what she's thinking.
Yeah, it's ambiguous, isn't it?
Yeah. And you don't know. And what was nice as well is she looked so sweet and angelic and little cherub, and you just want to grab her cheeks. But she looks evil.
Oh, don't tell her parents.
In a way, yeah.
Well, I know.
But she was an absolute, and they say, never work with kids, but she was an absolute joy to work with. And they were long, you see, I forget how long hours we work, and it just comes natural to me to do a 14-hour day. Millie didn't yawn once, she didn't say I need the toilet, she didn't moan, she didn't complain or grumble or can I go to bed or I'm hungry, or she uncomplained. And it was the mum who said, look, normally she'll have been in bed like 2 hours ago, and I'm thinking, oh my god, yeah, let's do her next. But she was absolutely brilliant, and she captured this look that is absolutely...
Well, it's critical, isn't it?
Yeah. It was so crucial. Like I say, although she only had a handful of lines, and needed to have that presence because the whole film revolves around her, and she's in lots of scenes. But she was brilliant.
Had she acting before? Was it from a school? Was it a casting call?
She's been in various drama clubs, and she now, after the experience of that, they were just basically little after school drama clubs. But certainly, the parents and her stepdad and what have you have said since that she just wants to be in films now. She wants to go into filmmaking, so that's nice. That she's really got the bug. But it was an absolute joy to work with her, and she on-set discipline, if you like, because she knew I wanted this absolute stillness. And we did a scene in a graveyard where they're burying yet another of her victims, and it was quite windy, and she's got long blonde hair, and the wind you could see it was blowing across her face, and she was wiping it out of her eyes and what have you. And as soon as she obviously heard me say, all right, going for a take, straight away, she was just, and the wind was still whipping this hair across her eyes, and I thought she must be aching to brush that out of her face. But she knew that I wanted this stillness about it, and she was just rigidly but not like the other girls that I auditioned, and it was all
put on.
It was really natural. Like, what is she thinking? What is that girl? What is going on in her head? Is it supernatural? Is she willing these deaths? Is it just coincidence? But yeah, joy to work with her.
The story of the film reminded me. I don't know if you've seen this, and I actually read the short story many years ago, and I think it was called "It's a Good Life," and it was an Outer Limits or Twilight Zone episode about this young child.
Yeah.
That what every wish would happen.
Right. Well, yeah.
And there's this weird creepiness about. I mean, not
it is kind of like that. Yeah. That she. You don't know if she's wishing them or just coincidence, but yeah, whatever she whoever she says goodbye, that's why it's called the goodbye girl. Whoever she says goodbye, and again the way the creepy. It said I was editing it, and I thought I must have seen this footage in the rushes, hundreds of times, and I was editing it, and certainly when I put music to it, which I believe makes films, when I put music to it, it would make me go goosebumpy when she says goodbye. And you just know that person's going to die. The next time I see that person, they'll be dead.
And where does this all come from? Where did this idea originate?
Comes, spoiler alert, it comes from a joke. It's just like a two or three line joke, which basically the story is, elaborates on this joke. And I didn't make it for about 2 or 3 years because I heard this joke and I thought that would make a brilliant film if I gave it a twist and made it a bit darker, obviously, because it's not a comedy by any means. It's not funny. So I'd written it all, and I was telling somebody about it who was going to film it for me, and then they interrupted. Oh yeah, and at the end this happens. And I thought, I said, yeah, I've heard the joke. And I thought, and then I told somebody else, and they predicted what happened in the film as well because they'd heard the joke. So I just shelved it for about 2 years, and then I had writer's block, and I thought I need to film something. I can't think of anything else. So I dug that back out and gave it a few more twists and altered it a bit more and shot it, and here we are.
So are you one of these people that you'll remember that you just put it on the back burner, but it's still there?
Yeah, and I was still. It's nothing how I envisaged originally. But it comes back to that quote about, is it Ernest Hemingway who said, the first draft of anything is shit. And that was a quote from him.
Yeah.
And I look,
probably right.
Yeah, and I look back at it, it was rubbish. And then it was originally set in an office, and the guy who thinks he's going to die starts picturing all these things that he might die, how he might die in the office. So there's a cleaner cleaning the office, and he worries that I might trip over a vacuum cord and fall down the stairs. And I thought, it's a bit weak, that. So I then set it in a garage, so rather than making an office worker, he was some mechanic in a garage, and he's working under a car, and with a nod to the Final Destination films where you suddenly think how's things going to conspire to kill that person. So he's working under a car, and you think that it's going to fall on him. There's various other, there's cutaways to a highly flammable huge tank of something. And it's in a scrap yard, and you see loads of cars piled on top of each other. So you think, I wonder if that pile of cars is going to topple onto him. And then he's having his hair cut in a barber's, and you're wondering if the hairdresser, who's obviously new, is going to slit his throat with this razor. So it's about how he's envisaging him die, having heard the girl predict his death. But yeah, it's a bit grim, but I'm inspired by the works of Jimmy McGovern, who...
Oh, fantastic! Yeah,
I love Jimmy McGovern, who writes obviously very gritty northern dramas, and I'm not into happy endings and everything. With no offence to Americans, some American happy Hollywood ending where it's all smiles at the end and all the loose ends are tied up, and a lot of the film is left open so the audience can continue the story in their own imagination. I wonder what did happen, or I wonder why she did doing that.
Sequelitis.
Sweet sequel. But the little girl will be flipping. It was a running joke.
They're literally growing tall every day.
Oh yeah. When I saw it at the cast and crew premiere, she was noticeably older then because sadly,
she didn't have a walking stick or something.
Yeah, well, it was a running joke that by the time I edited it, they were saying she should have graduated by the time you edited it. She was 8 when I filmed it. They were saying the premiere might coincide with her graduation ceremony, the rate you're taking to edit it. But yeah, my so-called ex-best friend, who was the cameraman on it, actually nicked all my camera equipment. We're doing about 10 days.
Oh no.
And he nicked the camera equipment, nicked the SD cards. Screw loose. I took all the actors home after day 10 of shooting. All the actors piled into my car. I drove them home and said, we'll put all the kit in his car. Literally never saw him again. And by the time the police recovered all the kit, it was October and the leaves were off the trees, and we thought we're going to have to now wait until next summer to complete the film. So a year went by until we could, and of course continuity-wise, and I'm worried that Millie, bless her's getting older and what have you. But I had a lovely cast and crew all came back and reshot because he kept 3 SD cards with 3 days footage, so I had to reshoot those days.
Well, you actually couldn't get those back?
No, well, the police got them back, the police returned them all, but he'd gouged, childishly scratched the SD cards.
So you had no chance.
So they'd been ruined. So we thought, I can't, and all the actors were thinking, typical, it's another film that I've been in that's never going to get made. And I said, I am going to finish this film, believe you me, don't worry. So we reshot it, or reshot those three scenes.
So all in all, sorry, how long did it take to shoot with this interruption?
It was shot over a summer, because again, the whole film was made for 900 quid. So it was £900 budget, most of which went on film kit and sweets for the kids. So Millie and everybody.
Sugar Rush.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Keep going,
exactly. Have another kind of fizzy Vimto.
Some
more
Haribo.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it was a running joke that I just had a boot. My whole boot was just full of sugar. Sweets, like a little tuck shop. So when I sensed anyone flagging, more sugar, pass the Haribos around. And Millie liked being in charge of the sweets and taking it around to the cast and crew and just feeding everybody. So we shot it in one summer 2015. And then I had to reshoot the lost scenes in 2016. And then because my ex-best mate was going to edit it for me, I was suddenly left with about 100 hours of footage and no one to edit it. And because I couldn't afford to pay anybody, I thought, right, I'm going to have to teach myself to edit.
And that's exactly what you did?
Yeah, so it took me about a year watching YouTube tutorials and just trial and error on Final Cut Pro, which I was editing with.
Because now you've done it, you're going to do it again.
Oh yeah, well I am. I'm now, I've now just finished actually editing a pretty good rough cut of the. It's not really a follow-up because I wanted it to be a standalone film, so people who'd not seen Goodbye Girl could still see Flower Boy, which is what it's called. And it's all about bullying. And again, there's a few crossover characters, so a few characters who survived the Goodbye Girl and weren't killed off in that have popped up in this as the same characters, because again, going back to Jimmy McGovern, he did 3 series. It's called The Street, which was all set in it was Manchester, Greater Manchester somewhere, where one episode you'd see a character very, very briefly, but then 2 or 3 episodes, or even in the next series, that character would reappear and their life would be expanded upon. So a couple of bit parts in The Goodbye Girl, you see a bit more of their lives and what makes them tick. In Flower Boy, which is like not a sequel as such, but it's a sort of like a crossover film. But yeah, I got absolutely hooked on The Goodbye Girl and the editing. I thought I can do everything now. I can edit now, so I can do it all myself. And here we are, having finished my second feature film. So,
brilliant.
But yeah, it's all been good fun and knackering and stressful.
So what were you doing in the previous life? Have you always been involved in film?
No, not at all. I started as an actor. I run my own murder mystery theatre company.
Right. Okay.
So I thought,
so the darkness,
I've already got access to blood and various prosthetics and bits and bobs. And that's where, like I say, the darkness comes from. And again, I'm not into happy endings. I'm into gritty. And again, Jim McGovern, he said, life is grim and people do get raped and murdered and assaulted and lose loved ones through tragedy. And I'm fascinated by that. I just, expanded on that and wrote this grim film. But there are comedy bits in it. There's a very flamboyant gay garage owner. And again, I put that in because it needed. I didn't want it to be grim throughout. It needed comedy.
A bit like Relief,
so I thought, rather than, and again, I like flipping things on the head. So this garage that he works in, the lead guy works in, it would have been easy to put some stereotypical Grant Mitchell type guy as the garage owner. But I thought, rather than that, let's have a really camp guy running this scrapyard and garage. And Paul Joan, who plays him, is really, really, really good at that and gets lots of much needed laughs. And again, I like that, dark and, that dark and light and shade and what have you, and the pacing of it, you need light. And again, things like Only Fools and Horses do it well, where there's tragedy 1 minute and then you're laughing. So I try to pace the comedy bits where you do need a bit of a pickup and a bit of relief. So hopefully the pace of it works nice.
No, it's a really well made film. So considering the budget, well done.
Yeah, 900 quid.
900 quid is incredible. Thank
Or
you.
sweets.
Thank you for that. Thank you,
Thank
Aidey.
you.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.